It was just another ordinary morning in the city. The streets buzzed with hurried footsteps, the low hum of traffic and the distant echo of construction. Life moving fast as it always does. But tucked away from the chaos was a quiet bus stop. A weathered bench beside an aging shelter, its metal rusted slightly at the edges, its backrest smudged with time. People passed by it daily without a second glance. Just a bench. Nothing more. Except today, it would become something much more. She arrived first, a woman in her early 40s dressed neatly, though her eyes betrayed a kind of weariness. Her name was Mira. She clutched a leather handbag to her chest, sat gently on the edge of the bench and stared straight ahead. She had been coming here for a week now. Not always to catch a bus, sometimes just to sit. The bench had become her pause in a world that no longer made much sense. Her husband had passed away 2 months ago. Cancer. Quick, merciless. And though everyone around her had resumed their lives, Mira was stuck in a loop, grieving quietly, politely, invisibly. This bus stop had become her sanctuary, a place where she didn't have to pretend. 10 minutes later he appeared. A man in his late 60s. Graying beard, a loosely buttoned cardigan. He walked with a slight limp, carrying a folded newspaper under his arm. His name was Arun. He too had taken to this bench. Not every day but often enough. His apartment overlooked the stop. After losing his daughter in an accident 5 years ago, Arun had found solace in routines. The park, the coffee shop, and this bench. At first they didn't speak. They just sat. Side by side. Silent. Strangers. And yet, not entirely. There's something oddly comforting about sitting in silence with someone who carries their own quiet sadness. It's as if grief, when shared in proximity, becomes less suffocating. That morning, a newspaper fluttered in the wind and landed near Mira's feet. Without a word, she picked it up and handed it back to Arun. He smiled. "Thank you." She nodded. "You're welcome." That was all. Just words. But something shifted. The next day they met again. This time she initiated. "Do you always come here this early?" He chuckled. "Only on days that feel heavy." "Which is most of them." She smiled softly. "I understand." And she did. Completely. That morning they spoke for 10 minutes. About the weather. About the changing city skyline. About how buses were always late. The next day they talked for 20. The day after that, nearly an hour. In the weeks that followed, the bench became more than just a resting place. It became their meeting ground. They began sharing their stories. Mira spoke of her husband, how they used to travel every summer, how he made the best tea, how the silence in their home now echoed louder than any noise. Arun shared stories of his daughter, her laugh, her drawings, her dream of becoming a pianist. How, after the accident, he hadn't been able to listen to music for years. And as they listened, really listened, they started to heal. There was no rush in their friendship. No need to impress or pretend. They brought each other books. Shared stories from the paper. Even sat through rain under that rickety shelter, sipping tea from a thermos Mira had begun carrying just for the two of them. They laughed sometimes, not the kind of laughter that masks pain, but the kind that slowly begins to feel real again. They even talked about the absurdity of grief. How people avoided it like a disease. How no one knew what to say, so they said nothing at all. But here on this little metal bench, everything could be said. And everything could be heard. Then one day Mira came to the bench alone. Arun wasn't there. The next day he still didn't come. She waited. On the third day a small note was tucked beneath the seat. Folded carefully. In neat, trembling handwriting it read, "Dear Mira, I've had a fall and am recovering at my daughter-in-law's home. I miss our mornings terribly. The bench feels empty without you. I hope to return next week. Warmth. Arun." Mira smiled through tears. It was the first time someone had written to her in months. And she realized something. That bench had given her more than a routine. It had given her a friend. When Arun returned a week later, leaning more heavily on his cane, Mira stood up to help him sit. He grinned. "You didn't replace me with someone younger, did you?" She laughed. "No one else would dare." They sat in silence again. Comfortable. Present. Together. That old bus stop bench had seen thousands of people, but none like them. Not because they were special, but because they allowed something special to happen. They didn't fill the silence with noise. They didn't ignore the weight of loss. They didn't pretend to be okay. They simply showed up. Day after day. Until one day they weren't strangers anymore. Sometimes the most unexpected friendships begin in the quietest of places. And sometimes, the bench you sit on to rest becomes the place that helps you stand again.